Well, welcome in, Lulu. Excited to have you here.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes. Well, the Agape Leaders podcast is a podcast that is designed to help people grow in their walk with Jesus Christ. And so, one of the ways that we do that is we ask all of our guests to share a little bit of their faith journey, whatever that takes us. So, would you please share with our listeners a bit of your faith journey?
Yeah, so I had an interesting faith journey because I grew up in the church. My dad is a deacon. He wasn't always, so I kind of like growing up, I've watched him we went through that transition of like dad dropping us off the church to dad actually being baptized to now being, going into full-fledged deacon mode. So that was an interesting transition. And I grew up in a very traditional Haitian church, so very strict. We weren't really allowed to wear jeans. Just very strict. And for me, it kind of doing that once I got 16 and I was able to get a real job, I was like, oh, this is my out. And I remember like telling my boss, like, can you schedule me on Sunday so that a Sunday morning so I can make sure I'm at work versus being at church. I kind of went through that phase where I kind of pulled away a little bit. But then when I got to college, being by myself, and I think it's something I always tell my parents where it's like, I'm so grateful that they raised me in church because you kind of always go back and being away from home for the first time, it's hard. Again, with growing up really traditional, my parents didn't really allow me to go places. So this was really my first time leaving the nest and just sleeping in a bed that wasn't my own. And it was hard, definitely went through the transition, not only academically, but also just like spiritually. I was trying to figure out who I was. I went to college thinking like, oh, I'm Lulu, I'm popular, I'm this, I'm that. Then I went to college and it's like nobody cared about any of that. And I had to start from ground zero and without any accolades and starting from like the bottom, I had to figure out like, okay, well, who am I? And that was like physically, that was mentally, and that was also spiritually. And I came across Calvary Revival Church, which is managed by Bishop Courtney Macbeth. And he really helped me kind of see Christianity in a different light for the very first time, where it's like a real come as you are environment, but, not don't stay as you are, come as you are, but don't stay as you are, as he would say a lot of times, because people take that and run with it. And I just being surrounded and feeling so loved and just accepted. And they really explained the Bible in a way that at the time, a 19-year-old young lady needed to hear. And I've just I took that time to rebuild my foundation and start my own spiritual walk. So, yeah.
That's good. That's good. You said that going to college was a real eye opener, or at least that's the note that I took. And because you said you had to kind of start all over, it seemed like because you were popular, and so I wrote a note. I said, started from the bottom. Now I'm back.
Yeah.
Having to start over, but that's so important. And for young people that may be listening, I wanted you to unpack something. And that was, you said there was a time when my father dropped us off at church, and it went from that to transitioning. Ultimately, now he's a deacon. If you can remember, what goes through your mind as you're being dropped off, though this is important, but how come he's not coming? I'm wondering if that was ever a thing. And if so, could you talk us through that growth, that transition?
Yeah, I definitely think like it causes confusion for the child because looking back at it, and now, I'm not married or anything, but I understand the importance of being equally yoked now because for your household, it really does kind of cause confusion for your kids. Like I remember thinking like, well, why I gotta wake up and get dressed and wear this ugly hairstyle and come sing on the stage and act fake like I like these people, and he get to go home. Like this is my dad. Like I want to stay with my dad. Um, so in a sense, like it just I don't, and even as a child, it's kind of like, okay, well, he gets to do this because he's a parent and because I'm a child, like I can't. So it's like as a young girl, and this was probably when I probably was like not 10, I was definitely younger than 10. By the time I was 10, I think my dad had started going into church and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, like it just to me, I was just kind of like annoyed because I'm like, I don't want, like, I don't care. Clearly, this is not that important if my dad doesn't have to do it, you know. And you know how they say train up the child as you like for her to go, whatever. Like, okay, well, he's not doing it. I want to follow my dad. I look up to my dad. So church is not that important. So yeah, that's how it made me feel as a young girl.
Now, I usually ask this at the end, and I will, but right now, I want to ask specifically for the person whose parent is dropping them off, or they're kind of going to church, but their family is not. And I don't think we have 10-year-olds listeners, but we may have some younger people who are listening. It may not be a parent dropping them off. It may be a friend or a spouse or what. What advice do you give to the person being dropped off so that they can persevere?
Oh, I would say just like understanding that, like, one thing my mom used to tell me all the time when I used to be like, well, you didn't say nothing to Valdi when he lied, is that my mom would always say, when on Judgment Day, like, you will have your own time with God. And it wouldn't have mattered about what anybody else does. God doesn't want to hear about what such and such did to you to make you act like this. Like you have to respond to your actions. So I would say, like, use that as motivation to kind of keep going when you feel like you don't have anybody to help you, because it is rough when you're going through this spiritual journey and you don't have the support of probably your loved ones, like the people you surround yourself around. Community is very important in Christianity, or in any spiritual walk, because you're going to have moments where you're going to be weak, or you're going to be tired, or you're going to, have doubts and stuff like that. And it's important to surround yourself with people, who can push you. But when you don't have that, it makes it that much harder. So just try to like really keep in mind of like the end goal is like, I'm living on earth. I'm living this life. I'm walking this path because I know ultimately at the end of the day, I have, somebody to answer to. And it matters to me that I did what I had to do.
Praise God. Can you kind of continue on in that vein? Help somebody who wants to walk. They understand everything you just said. They're not surrounded by community. What are some things that you would help them with and say, hey, here's how you can get into community?
Yeah, I would say finding a church that works for you, right? And thankfully, we have thankfully and sometimes dangerously, with society continuously evolving, there are a lot of churches now that make it so you can go to church by yourself and not feel like an outsider. Like I go to church on Tuesdays and Sundays 9 times out of 10 by myself, because one of the reasons being in Atlanta, like I'm new here now, so I kind of still don't have that many friends yet. And the friends I do have, they have their own churches that work for them. That this style probably doesn't work for me. But because I found a community that I feel like is welcoming, I feel like I belong. I don't feel like an outsider when I'm in the presence of the Lord with them. I feel like I've known these people forever. I feel like I can open up to these people, but it's a process. It takes time. Finding a church is a journey. One of my good girlfriends, I ran into her last time I was in Atlanta at Bible study. I was like, I didn't Grandma, you go here. She's like, girl, this is one of the 30 churches on my list. And she's just like making her way around because she just wants to make sure she finds the place that is right for her. And I know sometimes, I feel like sometimes people shun people who church hop, but I don't think there's nothing wrong with that if you're just trying to find the right home. This is a serious, like, committed relationship, essentially. So you need to make sure that if you're devoting not only your time, but also your money into a church, that it's appropriate and that you can grow in it and you can eventually have your family, grow your kids in also. So take your time and to figure out what's important to you, like what's most important to you. For me, it was come as you are, like a real laid back environment. I want to know that I can go to church in jeans, ripped jeans if I want to, and nobody's going to look at me sideways. If I want to bring somebody to church with me who probably is like tatted up, nobody's going to look at them like they're a criminal. That was important to me in terms of environment. And having a lot of a young community, because, I want to make sure that as I'm growing my community of friends, we're like-minded people with the same goal, so that if I'm falling short, I can lean on my friend and say, hey, like, girl, I'm having some thoughts today and I am not in the right mind. Like, I need somebody to talk to that will be on the same page, not somebody that's going to be like, well, girl, go off, so yeah.
That's good. So that's for those of you out there who may be, traveling your journey is kind of a lonely one right now. And Lulu just kind of, hey, get into a community, get into a church, and take your time and find that right one. It's funny. The most impactful statement that anyone has ever made to me was by a boss I had in Europe when I was stationed in the Netherlands. And I showed up, it wasn't a church situation, but I've put it in all my situations. And when you said, I want to be able to show up in ripped jeans if I want to, my friend tatted up, this thought came to me, what this guy said to me. He needed something from me. And I had been at tennis practice with the high school. And when I learned that he needed me, I just went straight to him. And so I'm in shorts, I'm not in uniform. And when I walked in, the first thing I did was I said, sir, I'm sorry for how I'm dressed. And he said, Major Mays, I don't want you for your clothes. I want you for your brain. And I always remembered that. Sometimes we get so caught up in what somebody is wearing or what they look like that we forget that doesn't matter. I can picture God saying, Greg, I don't want you for your clothes. I want you for your heart. Do you have a heart for me? Are you going to serve those people? Are you going to do the things that I've asked you to do? Then do that, however you are dressed. Can I use your words? Come as you are. That's
yeah.
You like that. So I want to take a little turn, because I've heard you sing, and you said you talked about being singing on the stage. So is it safe for me to say that amazing voice, you sang Never Enough, right?
Yes,
yes, you did. Yes, you did. Just in case you forgot, I was making sure you knew. Killed it. For those of you guys out there, if you get an opportunity, reach out to me and I will tell you where you can purchase a disc, a DVD of the Miss Florida competition, and you can hear my girl Lulu crush Never Enough, not once, but twice. So
yes, it was twice.
I keep up with stuff.
I forgot it was twice. I still can't believe I even made it to finals. So I'm like still in like, oh my goodness.
It didn't surprise me at all. I could show you my little list. Because I'm in the audience. I'm a fan. I'm on the board, but I'm also a fan. I'm also trying to figure stuff out. But anyway, so I said all that to say, is it safe to assume that you are the stereotypical singer that got started in the church?
No.
Oh.
No. Yeah. And it's funny because after the pageant, who I love, Jada Carter, Miss Winterhaven, her aunt came up to me and was like, "Baby, do you sing in church?" And I was like, "No." Yeah. So you're the second person that has asked me that. I've sang in church before, but I wouldn't say I wasn't like lead singer. I've had like a couple of solos, but it was never me. Like I was part of a singing choir, like a group, and the instructor, I guess like the maestro, her daughters always had all the solos. Always hated that.
Okay. Let it come out. Let it get out. I'll send them a link.
No, I love them. They're doing so amazing now. I left that church when I was like going to middle school and joined a new church. And then when I got to that church, I kind of got shy a little bit. Definitely was kind of going through that transition of just like, okay, what am I doing? Like, just like, what is God? Like, what is this? So I like did it because I had to. I wasn't doing it because I loved it. So I wasn't putting myself out there. I think probably like at that church, which is like, I would say like where my dad's a deacon is at, I probably my whole life of going there since middle school, I probably had like maybe 3 solos. It was like, I just sit in the back. The pastor's daughter, she would get a lot of the solos. Yeah, she would get a lot of the solos. So.
Well, I'll tell you what, let me call victory. Because sometimes they just don't know. You don't know what you have. What made you choose that? So you got to be able to sing, because that song is kind of iconic, relatively new, but people who have seen The Greatest Showman, is it The Greatest Show or The Greatest Showman?
The Greatest Showman. Yeah.
The people who have seen that have seen this lady sing this song, and you took it. I felt bad for the person who sang it in the movie.
She is though. I was scared, and then it's funny because Peyton and we both had teens who sang. Peyton is Miss Florida Citrus. We both had teens. Well. Yes, we both had teens who danced to our song. And we were backstage like, so they expect us to go out there and sound like this. And it's not going to happen. So we were back there like, yeah, great. Like, I wish we could have been on different days. But, my director, I tried to change that song, and I'm still trying to change that song for next year when I decide to compete. I'm still trying to change the song, but my director is like, that song, I mean, everything you just said, it literally just comes out of Miss Brenda's mouth. Okay. And she's like, and I think it's weird because I don't hear what you guys hear. I hear like the beginning and it's so low. And I'm like, I only have 90 seconds. I'm not going to pull nobody in with this. It takes too long to build up. And I'm like, I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, don't even listen to it. Ladies and gentlemen, she's delusional. She not only pulled people in 90 seconds, kept them. You crushed it. You can say what you want. And Peyton crushed Rise Up. And here's the thing. This is why you know that you nailed it. Because the young lady who danced to your song nailed it. She was an amazing dancer. And when you came out and sang the song, people are what? And knows you. Oh, you know what I wish? I wish that she could have danced to you singing.
Oh, now that is a compliment.
That's for real.
Can dance.
She could bring it. She's really good. She's really good. I sent her a little message. I think the second time she danced, breathtaking. She's breathtaking.
Oh, yeah. She's amazing.
Everything she does, she reaches out. And so, but no, so let's leave that.
Thank you.
We done complimented you enough. Let's get off the singing stage, praise God. But yeah, in all earnest. So I heard you say that you're going to continue to compete. And so the way Lulu and I met was in the part of the Miss America organization, Miss Florida organization. And so tell us a little bit about your journey in that, and why did you get started in there? And are you able to share your faith as a part of this?
Yes. So first started in 2015. It was my first time going. I started with Miss Broward County, with the Miss Broward County organization, which is why it was so important that when I went back this year, I initially thought this was my last year. It was important to me that if I'm going to go, one last hoo-ha, I'm going to have to bring it back to where it all started. And I won Miss Gold Coast, which is at the time, second runner-up, because Miss Fort Lauderdale wasn't a thing, or first runner-up. It was just Miss Gold Coast and Miss Broward County. And I initially started it. My friend did the pageant. I was like, oh, you telling me I get to sing, dance, walk on stage, and I can win scholarship money? I'm a senior in high school. Like, bet I'm going to do that. Did it, won. Shortly after, I got accepted into Hampton, the real HU, So, shameless plug.
Ain't no H in my game. Howard, you got to take that up with the Bison.
Yeah, so shameless plug. The greatest HBCU. So then I got accepted to Hampton, but I got accepted provisionally. So I had to do the summer program, which meant that I couldn't do Miss Florida. So I had to give up my title because at the time, the director was not having that. So I left, was in Virginia. I didn't compete. Well, I waited a year to compete in Virginia. Didn't really do so well. Well, I did. On my local prelim, I got first runner-up. And then I just kind of left it alone. I was like, let me just focus on Miss Hampton, because that's something I knew. The moment I stepped foot on Hampton's campus, I said, I want to be Miss Hampton. So I focused on that, did Miss Hampton. They tried to get me to get Hampton re-registered to go to Miss Virginia, but it didn't work out. So I paused. And then when it came back to now, fast forward, I always had this, I told myself this year, I sat down with myself and I said, I'm going to do everything that I want to do, and I'm going to deal with the consequences later. Like, I'm turning 25 this year. I just want to do it. And I'm just going to write down everything that I want to do, and I'm just going to cross it off. And that was compete on a state stage. And once I decided that I was going to go with Florida, in terms of faith, this was at the time, I thought my last year. And I kept thinking okay, financially, is this smart? I'm just not getting my funds back up. COVID just hit. But I just kept thinking God wouldn't give me this dream, or he wouldn't give me this idea if there was no will. And I decided something that I always tell people, and I tell my younger Miss Hampton sisters, is that it's so much bigger than you. I've met so many people when I was Miss Hampton, young ladies who come up to me and they're like, I really hated Hampton, but you spoke to me before, and it just made me feel good to see. At the time, I wasn't Greek. So they're like, oh, it makes me feel so good to see someone with a position like this who isn't Greek. It makes me feel like I belong, like I can do something. And to me, I thought about it with perspective. It's you know what? Life is just always so much bigger than you. I look at it as even with the pageant thing, I was even if I don't win Miss Florida, it's important for me to be on that stage, because not only when people see me, I want them to see love, and I want them to feel God in me and see God in me, but also for, most importantly, little Black and brown girls everywhere. It's important that they also see you can be celebrated in this space where not only are you intelligent, but you're also beautiful. And you're beautiful to what society thinks is beautiful. You can do that. So I just kept telling myself throughout the whole process, win or lose, God, there's a reason why you're going to put me in these rooms. I don't know what it is, but I just have to trust you.
I'm not going to pretend. When they announced the top 10 this year, I took a picture of the stage, because for me, It was beautiful.
It was amazing.
Because there's a stereotype. And so I was so pleased in that moment to look at that stage and to say, okay, because there are girls, not just in the audience, in the room, but online. And I loved that. That the diversity that was shown in our top 10 and even in our top 5. So there's, I think we get so enamored by who wins that we forget there's a process here. There's 33 young ladies that came. And as we started dwindling them down, everybody, if you were good, you had a shot. And I think that played out. I was excited to be a part of the Miss Florida organization because, that our society right now has a certain narrative that is being spoken. And Miss America is probably the largest scholarship program for women. And to have everybody's got a shot if you show up and you can stand in front of people and speak like professionally, and you have a platform that you're passionate about and that you can speak on, and if you have a talent that you're willing to go out and give it your all, then you can move through and you can win the scholarship money. And of course, who doesn't want to go into that with the idea of winning the whole thing? But knowing that you had, you did everything you could and you did a good job, and I don't know how much scholarship money you won in that time, but I know it wasn't nothing. Because
I got
third runner-up or the second runner-up?
I was second runner-up, so I got 6,000, and then for my local, I got 500, and then I think I have to double check on this, but I think we also get a scholarship for being top 15 and top 10, if I'm not mistaken. So I have to figure out if that is added. If it is, then I probably would have walked away this year with like 8,000 or maybe 8,500. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely, and that's nothing to shake a stick at. That's good money.
Absolutely not. My goal now by next year is to wipe out my student debt through MAO. And all I would have to do, which is still very hard, is no matter where I decide to compete, I need to just make sure that, put God first and to just show up my best self to hopefully do at least the same that I did this year. But now I'm like, this was my first year. I was balancing a new position with my job. So I couldn't put a lot into like the other scholarships because we don't show that part where, the woman in business and the Leanza Cornett scholarship and the woman in law and women in STEM. And that part isn't shown because we do that privately at the gala, but we are recognizing the best and brightest young women all across Florida for their efforts in these fields and the change that they're making. So it's so much more than a beauty pageant. It's what you make it. If you approach it as a beauty pageant, then it'll be just that. But let me tell you something, when it's time to go up and speak in front of them judges and in your personal interview, you're not going to get anything. Being pretty is going to get you but so far. But when you show your intelligence and you show that you're a well-rounded young woman, that's what you're going to go far. You're going to go far. Even if you don't place top 15. My roommate, Megan, she didn't place top 15, but she racked up scholarships. And she's like, I got more scholarships than what I put in. And I'm like, I know that's right, girl.
Praise God. So what Bible passages get you through tough times. You had some transition, moving up to Atlanta, cutting things short as far as your what's the word I'm looking for? Your lease for where you live. You got to lean on something.
Yes. So for me, it definitely is my favorite, probably more basic. For I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you, plans to give you hope. And it's for me, that's always like kind of stuck with me, because a lot of times, especially as a millennial, we are trying to we're trying to map everything out. And it's like, if something doesn't go according to plan, it's like we become frantic and like we don't know what we're going to do. We're like chickens with our head cut off. But it's having the discipline to sit down and just say, all right, God, you're rerouting my destination. I trust you. It's already written. I just have to follow along. Now, I will say it's a little hard because sometimes he don't send down those signs. So you like, really? You couldn't warn a sister, or you couldn't give me like a little something. But for the most part, though, if you just learn how to be still, and if you just listen, and if you be patient, that's something that he's been working on me. Last year, I decided to pick up acting, and I just recently, probably like 3 months ago, got my first television booking, and I started this journey last June, and I've just been auditioning and putting money and putting in time. But I knew that if I wanted to do this, go through this journey, like it was going to be a waiting game. I mean, look at Lindsay. It took her 7 years to get this goal, So sometimes God will show you, or he will test you through the things that you love to, kind of help you see, like, I got you. I got this. Trust me. You're gonna walk out way better than what you walked in. I'm not gonna let you walk away with nothing. So
that's good. That's good. I know a person who's in acting, and they said with acting, you might get 100 no's. And she said, but on that 101st, it still going to be a no, but you keep pushing anyway.
Yeah, no. And it's a lot of money too.
So what, I think you told me recently that you're kind of moving away from social media. But how can people kind of reach out to you if they want to talk to you? Is there an email? Is there?
Yeah, so I was trying to do it, but unfortunately with the pageant stuff, it's so hard because everybody that you meet, sometimes I don't want to give my email to everybody.
I understand.
So the social media is just kind of like a little bit easier. So I had to get back on it. So that I will say, unfortunately, but so people can always reach out to me at Miss Lulu Louizaire. That's like always the best place to find me. Sometimes I don't see all my messages because it'll sit in my requests, but I try to check them like weekly. Especially lately, since Miss Florida, I've been receiving like a lot of people ask me questions about how to get started and stuff like that. So it's kind of forced me to check it a little bit more. Another reason why the social media fast didn't work out, like it's probably not the best time to do it like 2 weeks after Miss Florida, where like everyone is viewing your story because you're tagged in everybody's stuff. It's like, oh, who's this person? So
that's good.
So it's like probably not the best time right now. So yeah.
Well, I was glad I slipped in there. I'm glad I got in when I got in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also was probably being dramatic. I had a bad day that day, and I just was like, I need to just get away from everything. So I think that was also me just throwing a tantrum.
Well, tantrum over, I guess, because you said you're back. They can reach you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, will you give the people an encouraging word, something to encourage them as we get ready to get off here?
Wow. Cool. It's a couple, but I can say for this week, something that I've been trying to remind myself is remember, and this is going to sound like a cliche, but it covers so much, is to remember that you are the child of the Most High, which means that you're already deemed worthy. Like, it doesn't matter who decides to walk out of your life. It doesn't matter the job that you didn't get because you were quote unquote unqualified. It doesn't matter how you feel when you wake up in the morning. Like, always know that you are literally the child of the Most High. And that is the biggest blessing that anyone can receive, and the biggest honor. And whenever you're feeling like less than, just remember who's your father, because that is something that we are so lucky to have. And we're not like everybody else. We stand out. We stand out because we're the child of the King.
That's good. We're going to let that be the last word. And so thank you so much for your time, Lulu. And we've enjoyed having you.
Thank you. Bye.